Thank you so much for giving all your love and support to Prerna Ke Srot, a channel which is dedicated for all the people around us who are the source of inspiration to many of us. The guests tonight are the reason why these sessions are called Prerna Ke Srot, the source of inspiration. She is the epitome of calmness, of patience, and is blessed with the knack of creating happiness around her. He is a life coach, a published author, a cyclist, and a mentor to many. While he was busy sprinting on the corporate treadmill, like he says, she devoted herself towards the family responsibilities so that he could focus on his career. A prodigy from IIM Bangalore, he spearheaded several leadership positions for Xerox and HCLs of the world. Today, he is on his happication with his life partner, Mrs. Deepa and Mr. Hari Baskaran. Let's hear it from them. Good evening, both of you.
Good evening, Shivali. So wonderful to be on your channel. Thank you so much for having us here.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure that you guys are here, and that makes this channel worth what it is today.
I've listened into some of the earlier channels, and I must say they've been extremely inspiring. Thank you. I hope we can do at least half that justice in this session with you.
Definitely. Before we move on, I would just quote one thing which I found on your LinkedIn profile, and it says, and I've taken the quote from there: on the happiness trail, I'm finally doing the things I love. Post a hectic life in the corporate world, I now spend my time on pursuits that will enhance my health, happiness, and well-being. You could say I'm on a happication. So, over to you, Hari.
That was a most appropriate start, Shivali. I could not have said it better. I would have had to hunt through my own LinkedIn profile to bring out that quotation once again and share it with you. Thank you so much for sharing. So yes, it was a very sort of seamless transition for me from a very hectic corporate life into one of retirement. In fact, it was so hectic, I never really thought about retirement at all. It sort of crossed my mind once in a while, but I never really seriously thought about it till my 60th birthday. Okay. And my children and wife and other family members decided to, give me a huge surprise. So they sent me off to the market on some, wayward errand. And when I came back, the house was full of family and friends, and there was a whole lot of merrymaking going on. And that was my 60th birthday celebration. Wonderful. So, of the many things that had been presented to me, my children gave me a set of golf books. And that got me thinking. And I said, so they are telling me that it's time to sort of relax, play golf, take it a little easy, put my feet up on the chair. So I began to seriously think about it. Retirement was quite some way off, actually. The company had been giving me repeated extensions, and I was due to carry on till the age of 65. So, but I started seriously thinking, and then I took some very conscious decisions. The first decision was that I am going to do things that make me happy and keep me healthy. So I wanted the outdoors. I love the outdoors. I used to dream of going into the mountains on trekking assignments, living in a tent. So that was something I was going to do. I knew I had to remain fit, and I chose cycling as the vehicle for fitness. I thought that will be the best vehicle for me. I hadn't ridden a cycle for well over 40 plus years. Okay. The last time I cycled was probably early youth. But I went and bought a cycle, what is that? A Schwinn cycle. Pretty decent cycle, got hold of that. So I knew that cycling and mountaineering is going to give me a lot of opportunities for another love of mine, which was photography, outdoor photography. Yes. Quickly invested in a digital SLR camera. Also invested in some software which will help me learn and do some editing. So that was one phase. one part of it. The other part, I was very fond of writing in school.
Mm-hmm.
School writing and writing a book professionally are two completely different things. It didn't worry me. I just loved writing. So I thought, that this is going to be an activity I'm going to do. I'm going to start writing a lot of books,
Mm-hmm.
as many as I can.
Wonderful.
And I took another important decision, and that was that I was not going to spend too much of time in the corporate world. I had had enough of it.
After spending almost what,
So,
30 years? 30 years and more.
yes, 35 almost
Oh,
years.
great. Okay.
So I told myself that I'm definitely not going to take another assignment. There were
Mm.
some offers which came to me, but I just refused them all. And I decided that I would do a little bit of consulting, a little bit of executive coaching, which I love.
Mm.
Uh, love being with people and guiding and helping people, but not more than 4 to 5 days in a month. That was it
Mm.
insofar as the corporate world. And of course, there were opportunities to serve on the board of a few companies,
Mm.
which I willingly did because that would keep me in touch with the corporate world and give me
Definitely.
a little bit of opportunity to learn and study about organization, very wide and diverse organizations.
Mm. I like to hear from ma'am. How was your response to this new version of Hari, if I say Hari 2.0? Because there was a time when he was not available. Now he says, I don't want to spend a lot of time in corporate. So, what was your response to this new change in focus?
Yeah, initially I had been worrying about how he would spend his time after retirement, but I needn't have worried because he's always had a lot of interests. And, after retirement, I found that he was throwing himself into various projects and he was really enjoying himself, you know.
Mm. Mm.
And so, I found that having him at home was also a good time. We could spend a lot of time together.
And I
Happily,
wasn't stepping on her toes either.
yeah,
So
he gave me a lot of space also, and so
Now, here is a couple goal for many, many people around there. The two of you are a role model for many of them, many of people like me. But here is a couple goal to look at that, do what you love to do and don't step on each other's, interests. That's wonderful. I remember
if
meeting you.
I add a word, Shivali, about Deepa, my life partner, we've been married for 42 plus years,
Wonderful.
and we have been always poles apart. She's brought up in the north, I'm brought up in the south.
Mhm.
Her interests and my interests don't coincide. So we are a partnership where interests don't really coincide. But we've been life partners, and we've loved it being together. And when I was
Wonderful.
immersed in the corporate world, she made sure that I could do that. She was a real rock, a rock of Gibraltar,
Definitely the anchor for you.
and the heart and soul of the family. Actually, the heart and soul of the family to ran the home like like
Mm.
clockwork. And after I retired, she was again the rock of Gibraltar. Just as much as I made the transition, she
Mm.
made the seamless transition too.
Possible for you. Yeah, no, she made it possible for you also, right? I remember
Yes,
a
yes, yes.
couple of years back, I met you at one of the events when you were doing a Helpage India moment, silver cycling, something to do with your
Yes,
active aging agenda. So please tell us about
yes.
that, Hari.
Active aging. So a
Yes.
little bit about the active aging to start with.
Mm.
So once I threw myself into these projects and I really got into working around my retirement,
Mhm.
the term active aging never came to my mind.
Mhm.
It first came to me when I signed up with Helpage to do a cyclotron from Chennai to Delhi, and they said let's dedicate it to the theme of the year. That was the 40th anniversary of Helpage's presence in India,
Mhm.
and the theme of the year was celebrating active aging.
Mhm.
So the cyclotron was therefore dedicated to this theme, the
Mhm.
celebrating active aging. It
Okay.
was then that I started reading up about active aging and trying to understand the concept. And the first thing that struck me was that just because you are not ill, you are remaining in reasonably good health, doesn't mean that you're leading or celebrating an active life. So that is just living. That's not celebrating an active aging. So
Beautiful.
if you are celebrating active aging, then you should set up a fresh set of goals. You should go after the aspirations you always had, unfulfilled aspirations you had. And above anything else, you should retain that spirit of adventure. Be youthful in spirit, and have that youthful endeavor to keep pushing yourself and keep going, and do a whole wide range of activities. And some of them would be related to your own personal satisfaction, but there is no escape from leaning towards what you can give back to society. So as long as you are able to give back to society, the meaning and purpose of your life grows. When you start feeling purposeful at any age in your life, then you don't have anything to worry. So active aging is a whole gamut of activities.
Wonderful. And how did ma'am manage? How did you manage from Chennai to Delhi? I think around 58 days, if I'm not wrong. And during
Yes,
the
I
day
think
hours, you
58
will
days.
pedal, and at night, you would rest and travel or stay someplace. How did you manage,
Yes,
ma'am?
we were all staying at old age homes mostly.
Okay.
So it was about 5, 6 hours of pedaling every day in the morning. And then HelpAge used to arrange a whole series of events for us in the evening. Mainly talks and discussions with people in the old age homes, interacting with them, and also going to disadvantaged sections of society like orphanages. We used to go to people with visually impaired things. So it was not just cycling; it was a spiritual journey.
It was really good. Initially, when I came to know about the trip, the long duration actually put me off, and I was not prepared to go for 2 months, But then I knew I would be worried about his safety and how he would manage all his food and everything. So I wanted to be a part of the project. So I think once all the arrangements were made, I agreed to go along. And having started it, I must say that I really enjoyed it a lot. And I wouldn't have missed that opportunity at all. I was really happy to be a part of it.
I
We made
remember
so
you
many friends. We made
yes,
so
yes,
many
I was
friends
coming
out
to
there.
that. Yeah, I remember you telling me like as a little girl, you used to travel with your father, on road when he would get transferred from one location to other, and you felt like you were reliving those moments.
Yes, yes, exactly. So every day here we were in a different place and meeting new people in the various homes, and it was really very touching, to see them. They would ask me to come and see their room, and they would show me, this is my cupboard, this is my bed. It was really nice to find them.
Shivali, what would happen when we were there? The ladies, they are lonely people. Those in
Yes,
these aged homes are very lonely, and particularly the ladies, because very often they might have been discarded from their homes.
yes.
So there is nobody really coming to meet them and see them. So when she and Prem's wife, Pramila, when they saw them, the ladies used to make a beeline for the two of them. They would garrow them. They would simply garrow them, and they would take them all over. This is this. This is that, and they wouldn't leave them. When it was time for us to move, we had to just drag them away from.
I remember you telling that you're still friends with some of them, ma'am.
Yes, yes, we are still in touch with them. On WhatsApp, we exchange messages and.
Wonderful. So, Hari, coming back to you, this event which took you almost 2 months and a lot of distance that you covered, how did you train your mind? Training your body is one thing, of course. So, how did you
Yes.
go about training your mind and body? for the event?
Yes, actually, it all starts with planning, and there was a requirement for meticulous planning.
Yeah. And he is that I can
Vouch for.
vouch for.
Me too, me too.
He's a real meticulous planner.
We had
Because
to
of that, everything went by clockwork.
Wow.
No
We-
glitch at all.
we needed to decide on the route that we will take. We needed to decide how much we'll cycle in a day, halting points for the night. And we, of course, you have to do a lot of work in terms of getting the sponsors on board. Helpage took a while, then they came on board. And then I needed other sponsors to do a bit of funding for the support vehicle and various other things. So organizations like Tata Coffee came forward to do that sponsoring.
That's wonderful.
And then TI Cycles came forward and they gave me a technician to accompany me throughout, along with a component of spares, etc. So that was, and we had to decide when to stop. I used a lot of apps actually. I used Google Pro to understand the terrain, to the elevation profile of where I was cycling. Then I went into YouTube and located, so people actually put YouTube videos on their cycling. So I selected the things that were in the route that I was going, so that I could understand what the conditions were. And these people were giving a kind of a live commentary while they were cycling, so I had a view. And on the day of the cycling, I used an app called Windy on my phone. So this would give me the direction of the wind. It would give me what was the temperature profile through the morning.
See such meticulous planning.
No, seriously, that is like to all details, last mile as well. So.
Yes, and then that it's a tough day or not so tough day, and so on and so forth. So this was one aspect of it. Then there was the physical preparation. When you're 70 years old, you aren't 40. So if you were 40, then you probably just needed about a couple of months of training to be ready. But when you are 70, I needed almost 5 to 6 months of training to prepare, because I had never cycled so much in one go. We were cycling between 50 to 70, sometimes 100, 120 kilometers in a day. And this had to be done day in and day out. So I don't remember, cycling in one shot 3 days continuously like that. So it took a lot of effort, and but I was ready by the time, the endurance was there, the strength was there, the cardiorespiratory system was in good shape, etc. So all this was fine. But when it came to the mind, it was just a decision that I will not give up come what may. So I just envisaged scenarios. What if I met with an accident? So if I met with an accident, then I wait till I'm okay, till the cycle is repaired, and then I'm back on the cycle and I keep cycling. What if I fall ill? So if I fall ill and can't cycle, then I wait. And once I'm ready to cycle, I'll start again from the same point. If I do, have any kind of ailments of any kind, and cycling always gives you, long distance cycling always gives you such ailments, I wasn't going to give up. In fact, what happened was that I got the dreaded saddle sores. I cycled the last 1,000 kilometers of a little more than 3,000 kilometers with saddle sores. So it was painful at times. It was very, very uncomfortable at times. But I just told myself that I cannot stop. I just have to keep going. So once you tell your mind that there is no way that you're going to be defeated, then I guess you keep going.
So you coached your
mind. And of course, I never allowed my wife to say stop.
I'm sure she wouldn't have. I'm sure she would. She would only have said that, Hari, get better and get going. Just finish this up. Wonderful. After meeting you, my daughters told me, I think they heard from you only. They told me, Mama, 70 is the new 40s. So I said, so that's just one inspiration that they also took from you. So How did this becoming a published author happened after the cycling event or before? How did that happen?
Yeah, because I liked writing, as I said. So, and I decided that that is going to be an avenue for my active aging program. So, because book writing gives you many, many dimensions to life. You know, one is that there is some research and there's thinking. So, you're using your mind and writing. There's an element of creativity. How do you write? How do you express yourself? What do you write? Etc. And then there is the excitement of launching the book, meeting people, and just watching how the book goes and taking the bad feedback and the good feedback in your stride. Some people say real absolutely trash that you've written.
I
Some people
know.
like the book that you have written. But the way I got started actually was that I wanted to understand the publishing industry. So I just gathered some of the blog posts that I had. I used to maintain a blog from 2006 onwards, all about my life, office work, a spiritual journey that I was taking, my family, travel, etc. So I just put together, a series of posts related to the travel that some many times both of us did together. Thanks to Nokia, thanks to Xerox, thanks to one of the perks of my job, I guess, that I got to see a lot of the world, some and quite often with my spouse also. So the first thing I did was I really, put these together, no editing, nothing. I just did it on a software platform called fastpencils.com. And then I used a printer in Delhi and got this book published. It was called The Unforgettable Decade.
Okay.
Uh,
I
Nothing
think
to
this
write
picture
home
is
about.
clicked by you, is it?
Yes, all the picture. This picture was also clicked by me. This was in Queenstown in New Zealand. Yeah, and these aircraft that we see at the back, these are special aircraft which take off on grass and land on grass.
Okay.
Yeah. So interesting things. Then the next book was a bit more serious. I then engaged with Partridge, which is the e-publishing wing of Penguin. And I first tried one book with them. So what I did was I gathered a lot of material about my family and photographs. And I brought out a book like this. It was called Heartland, the Spirit of the Family.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and again, very little editing, just a little bit to put things together, a lot of photographs. And it was a very emotional book because, all my family members have passed on. I'm the only one surviving in our immediate family. So this book, I printed about 1,500 copies. 150 copies and just distributed free of cost. This one I did a modest 25 copies and gave it to friends. But a more serious book was this. This was also done through
Can you just
Partridge.
bring it a little towards the camera? We can't see it. A little closer.
Yes.
Yeah, building winning partnerships. Cool. Yes.
Building winning partnerships. This was about a very emotional program which I ran. It was converting, a company run own employee kind of a service network into an outsourced network. And I'm talking about 20 years ago, when outsourcing was not such an in thing. And people cried when you told them that they were actually going to become, they had to leave their jobs and take up the job as an entrepreneur. I had to go and meet their family members and reassure the family. The fathers and mothers said, "Why are you doing this to our son?" And so on and so forth. But it was a beautiful experience after that. The family got together, wives joined the husband. Fathers who had retired also became accountants in the same company.
Wow.
And they did really well. And I captured those stories, 14 stories. I selected 14 stories and captured them in this book. And I didn't do much selling because what happened was each of these people, they took books in 50s and 100s and distributed among their family members and their friends. So eventually I sold or distributed something like 1,250 copies of this book. So it got me off the ground. But the real work in terms of writing a book seriously, I did it again as self-publishing through Notion Press. And the first was a book on the Anglo-Indian community. And it took all of 4 years
Mhm.
4 years of research, 4 years of reading, 4 years of meeting people, travel all across the country, travel even to Australia.
Mhm.
And I finally got the book which I liked and which the Anglo-Indian community loved. Anglo-Indians love this book, and I am right now an honorary Anglo-Indian. Just today I was speaking to my niece. My sister-in-law is an Anglo-Indian.
Mhm.
So my niece lives in Montreal,
Mhm.
and she's married to a Christian, not an Anglo-Indian, but a Christian a chap called Sandeep.
Mhm.
So Sandeep and I were having a chat tonight, just about an hour and a half ago.
Mhm.
And then he was telling me, I read that book of yours, the one about those bloomin' Anglos. And he said, I thoroughly enjoyed the book.
Mhm.
So he says, I knew very little about Anglo Indians, though I had a lot of Anglo Indian friends, but reading your book made a lot of difference.
Wow.
Similarly, there was a classmate of mine from my school, St. Mary's.
Mhm.
So he is currently a doctor based in the UK.
Mhm.
So he had got hold of the book and then he sent me a very nice email. And he said, look, I'm married to a Welsh lady. And I could never explain to her what an Anglo Indian was, nor to my children. Your book has fulfilled that gap.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, ma'am, coming to you, while Hari was busy writing and peddling and doing things that he was doing, how did you keep yourself, in different areas of interest that you have? So, please tell us about your interests and hobbies.
Uh, I think I was always interested in music. I, as a student, I had taken up piano for just a couple of years, and
Mhm.
then I had forgotten all about it. And it was only much later in life, that I thought I'll take it up again, and that too
That was
after.
her that was her retirement activity.
So I enrolled in a music school and attended classes once a week for about 4 or 5 years.
Mhm.
I thoroughly enjoyed it,
Mhm.
and otherwise I'm just pottering around at home. I watch some cookery shows on TV, all the master chefs and all that,
Ah,
and I
but then
enjoy.
but then you joined the Buddhist society that I am part of. So
Mhm. Yes,
that
tell
made
us
her
about that.
made
Tell
things
us about
different
that.
for her.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so actually, it's a very vibrant group that I am part of. It's a Buddhist spiritual organization.
Mhm.
And I found a new circle of friends who are not just a friends group, but a very strong emotional support group.
Mhm.
We talk to each other regularly, and in times of need, we pray and chant together. And uh, I really enjoy being a part of that group.
That's the reason of the calmness that you have on in the aura that you carry. So that meditation actually is reflecting everywhere in your personality.
Thank you.
This is one area that we found common
Uh-huh.
because I've been a practicing member for well over 20 years. She joined
Mhm.
about 5 years ago.
Mhm.
I always wanted something common that both of us could do together.
Mhm.
So, now we pray together, which, I just have to say that those who don't pray, if they do pray together with the spouse and the family, it's a terrific experience. And we
Mhm.
study the philosophical tenets. There are a lot of books that we study, so we study it together. So there is a time now that we really have together.
Wow, so beautiful it is. Something that we all should look forward to. Creating that moment of togetherness, the small, small moments of togetherness that we create in things like this. Beautiful. So, of his books, the 4, 5 books that he's published, which one is your favorite?
And the first two books that he showed you, I'm a part of those books, so of course they are close to my heart.
Okay.
But otherwise, the last two books, the book on the Anglo-Indians and the active aging, especially the Anglo-Indian book, I could see that he was enjoying himself so much during that process of writing. He was connecting with all his school friends, and
Mhm.
he just totally enjoyed himself. Yeah. It was the journey which was just as exciting.
Beautiful. So journey
Um,
was more exciting than the outcome, the destination when you reached
True.
there. Beautiful.
yeah.
So, Hari, coming back to you, if you were to give a message or a piece of advice to a 40-year-old self, what would you give that advice?
So, Shivali, the period 40 to 50 for me was very paradoxical. On the one hand, my career was zooming up. So I was moving very rapidly up the corporate ladder. Lots of rewards and recognitions coming in, lots of, nice things being said, etc. Uh, but at the same time, when I look back, that was never the happiest moments of my life because that was the most stressful time I ever had in my life. I was on the corporate treadmill, as you mentioned. You can't get off that treadmill. Once you're on, you're just running all the time, chasing after God knows what. So I started realizing then that, I was a victim of chasing after what you can call worldly affairs, which is recognition, status, possession. I began to worry, what if I lost all these things? So you were on the treadmill and you were stressing yourself out just because you never wanted to even consider the fact that you could lose these one day. Either through retirement you could lose it, or you could just lose it because you lost your job, or somebody took over your position or something like that. It was that sort of a life which was never good. So in retrospect, when I think about it, this was never required. In fact, most of the time I was being fueled by a sense of insecurity and a sense of inadequacy. But when I think it over, one of the messages I would give myself, and if I live my life again, would be that I am okay just as I am. I don't need to change that much. I have my own collection of weaknesses and I have my own collection of strengths. And I'll build on my strengths, and I don't really need to worry too much about what perceived weaknesses. Yeah. And the other thing was there was no need to keep driving and running after, these things from a perspective of fear. It was good to push yourself. It was good to achieve. It was good to, show victory in your life and victory to your team members. Your team members thrive on victory. So you have to lead them as a general into victory. So all that was important. But what was not important was, the fear of losing position, the fear of losing status, etc. So I would correct the way I went about it. I would still have a lot of passion for my work. I would still drive results. I would still go for very high goals. And I would still cheer along with my team for every single win. But it will not be out of a sense of insecurity, all of that kind of thing. So I think my life would have been equally demanding, but a lot happier.
Beautiful. That's so profound. Yep. I think that's a wonderful piece of advice. A lot of people now also, if they take this advice and correct themselves, correct the way of how they approach towards their life, they'll be benefited great deal. Ma'am, coming to you, what message would you like to give to the couples out there?
I would like to tell couples to have patience and invest in the relationship. Uh, Marriage is it includes children and building a home, creating a good environment for them to grow up in. And all of this is a partnership which includes everyone, not only the spouses, but the children too. together we should make the home the most beautiful place in the
Beautiful.
world.
Beautiful.
And she's done that. And
Yes.
it is her heart and soul that is reflected in our home, and thankfully reflected in the children, because they have taken to her more than they have taken to me. And it's her heart and soul that is actually running the show.
This is such a lovely moment for me to have right now. Looking at the two of you and listening from you, it's such a marvelous moment for me. Beautiful. Uh, so, Hari, what are your plans for this year, 2021?
I originally had some grand plans uh, before the COVID came and upset it, because I had spoken to a good family friend of mine who is a diabetologist. He's a world-renowned diabetologist, and he's a Padma Shri winner. So, uh, for the World Diabetes Day in 2019, that was prior to the COVID year, he had invited me to actually be there, because he had invited a sort of professional cyclist from Spain, a person who was fairly high, on the international pecking order of cyclists. I'm a friendly cyclist, but this guy is a professional. So, and he was a type 1 diabetic. Yeah. And he was, he's an ambassador now for active living, in spite of being a type 1 diabetic. So we were talking, and I was telling him about this Chennai to this thing. And Novodisc, the manufacturers of insulin, their representatives were also there. So they said, why don't we do something in the year 2021, which is the 100th year of the founding of insulin. So we had then put together on the spot a cycling expedition around the peninsula of India. So we started from Orissa, went all the way around the coast, past the southernmost tip of Kanyakumari, before probably ending up either in Kerala or in Goa. So there were going to be a lot of people involved in this particular venture, where we were talking about healthy living, knowledge about what diabetes is all about. It's not as much a disease as a life condition, and how you can live a beautiful life, etc. But unfortunately, because of the COVID, all of that has come to a grinding halt. So I'm hoping that things change a little bit in 2001 and 2022. But certainly there are a whole lot of plans in my mind. I do want to write a few more books. I want to extend the topic of active aging a little more. I want to bring out a sister publication on active aging once more. Do a bit more research and come out with that. I want to write another book about the family. This time I want to rope in the next generation. So I'd written up to one point, which is our generation. So I wanted to be a family project. So everyone writes. So it will probably be in the form of an ebook or a shared document, which everybody puts photographs and writes, and I become the editor-in-chief and bring out a very live document, full of history, full of real warmth that people feel for their family members, etc. So that's a project very close to my heart, and I definitely want to do that. My trekking friends have told me that they want to do one more trek, probably in 2021, after the monsoons, when maybe we'll be allowed to trek. So there's a trek coming up. I am 72 and I'll be heading towards 73. So I have to watch out that we are not going too high into the mountains. Otherwise, I will create a lot of problems for myself. But otherwise, I want to even physically break a few records wisely, without injuring myself. I'd certainly like to break a few records. And I want to take a social cause, one more social cause. if there is one chink in my armor, I think that I haven't done enough in society. So I am struggling to find an avenue, a platform, where I could actually give back a bit more to society and do a bit more work of an active nature, along with Deepa. I know she's very good at this. So if we can together find a platform that we can work on with the help of any organization that might back us, we certainly want to do some work in that space.
My best regards to you for all your future goals, both of you. And thank you so very much for coming on Prerna Ke Srot tonight. Have a wonderful
Thank you so
2021.
much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shivali. That was wonderful speaking to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All the best for all your endeavors.
Thank you so much.
You've come out with some beautiful endeavors over the last couple of years, and I think this is also going to be a brilliant success. All the very best.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.